Welcome to another exciting episode of the Texas Bible Project. My name is Eric Bond, and I'm calling this the Revelation according to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. A few days ago, I was talking about the rapture and how that the three Israelite children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were thrown into the flaming fiery furnace, and it was just like the end insofar as the wicked individuals that threw them in there were killed first. And the three elect individuals went into the fiery furnace alongside Jesus Christ, who kept them perfectly safe. They didn't even smell like smoke. And that is what's going to happen at the end. The wicked will be taken out. The righteous will be left behind, whether you want to believe that or not. I suggest you listen to some of my other 10-minute YouTube blurbs regarding the rapture, and hope you enjoy them. God never misses a teachable moment with regards to pattern behavior. Pattern behavior happens to be my field of theological research. Jesus and God does things to magnify what's going on in other things. The Bible, every word of it is about Jesus Christ. Half of it is about him coming to earth for the first time as a baby and the Savior of the world. And the other half of it is about him, his return as the king, when he squares the books with all the wicked. The elect individuals, no harm will befall them whatsoever. The Christians, the true Christians. Everybody else is going to have an extremely bad day and a bad 1,000-year millennium. But that's another story at another time. I started looking at this, obviously knowing how God does his pattern behavior. Something has to be going on with regards to this whole story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It starts out with the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. Now the king of Babylon will show up at the end. His name is Satan. The king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, builds a 90-foot tall statue, obviously to himself, an idol, in the plain of Dura, it says. Dura happens to be about 10 miles southeast of Babylon. And at that time, 6 different instruments will either be hit or blown into or strummed. And it says that the statue is 6 cubits wide by 6 cubits deep by 60 cubits high. If you look at just those numbers, it's the most ridiculous thing you could ever possibly imagine. It's 90 foot high. But if you look at the fact that this whole tableau is drenched in 6s, obviously, because God does not put numbers in things for us to just idly read past them. We're supposed to start making sense of it. And I started looking this in a very critical fashion, and I took 6 times 6 times 60, and I get 2,160. Now, what in the universe happens to be 2,160 of anything? And that's where I had to start looking. This is not a puzzle. I'm not making a puzzle out of this. I will tell you it's the moon. It is 2,160 miles in diameter. Very interesting, I would say. I don't like coincidences, and particularly when it has to do with the Bible or the end times. So we have to assume basically that God is talking about the moon. Well, what about the moon is going on at the end time? And I'm going to make this very simple. Today is Yom Kippur, High Holy Day of Israel, and I'm not a big Israel fan. I've been over there. I've seen it. I get it. I know what's going on. I understand perfectly well the good figs and the bad figs, and that's another story for another time. But what's going on? This is their Day of Atonement, the High Holy Day, and a psychopath by the name of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is at the UN today talking about, a bunch of baloney and, how Israel has to die and, he gets to live and all of his little buddies, etc., etc. when you get all these prophetic pronouncements in the book of Daniel from Daniel, starts talking. He'll say, I was over by this river. I was over in this town. I was over doing this there. I was over doing this. What he's always talking about, as far as I can determine, he's talking about rivers, towns, and places in a country that you and I know very well as Iran. The interesting thing about Iran and all this end time stuff is in about 600 AD, a gentleman by the name of Muhammad walked into Mecca in Saudi Arabia, where the Kaaba stone is, walked over to one of the stones that are embedded therein called Allah, which happens to be a moon goddess rock. I don't care what anybody says. Sorry, you got to do your research on this. So he walked over and said that that rock is the one true God. He was trying to move his people away from polytheism to a monotheistic doings like the Catholics and like the Israelis. Monotheism, as far as he was concerned, he was right insofar as monotheism is the one and only thing. But he picked the wrong rock, unfortunately. Our rock is Jesus Christ, and he picked a stone that's supposedly from the moon. So what you're looking at as far as end times go, you've got this guy. If you look at the flags of all the Islamic so-called republics, all the Islamic kingdoms, all the Islamic countries all over the world, you'll find they've got one notable item on there, and what it is the crescent moon. It's the moon. I've been around a lot of different continents, and I've seen a lot of Islamic minarets, and minarets have a notable design distinction on them. On the top of them, they'll have a moon. So what your father is trying to tell you, it's the moon, children. It's the moon worshipers are your problem. In Hebrew, and my tongue cannot make the difference in the pronunciation, but in Hebrew, locusts or grasshoppers is the word arba. That's how it's pronounced. In the Hebrew language, the word for Arab is arba. That's how it's pronounced. I'm sorry. Arba and arba. The locusts, the grasshoppers are swarming now, and they're swarming in the areas of our embassies all over the world. We're going to have to pull out. We won't be able to keep our people safe. Those days are over. And I suspect Bibi Netanyahu and the boys are going to make a real hot spot over in Iran quite quickly. Wherever they happen to have this breeder reactor and are creating fissionable materials, that's going to stop. And then all hell's going to break loose. The Bible clearly tells us where to go to the Euphrates and look east. Well, what's east on the Euphrates? Well, what's east is Iran. And where is Satan, the Antichrist, and all of his locust army and all of his little kings going to come from? It says they're going to dry up the Euphrates River so they can cross over and come into the Holy Land, or Israel, if you will. Well, golly, the Euphrates River is dried up right now. It's called a bridge. You ever seen one? That's how you walk over a river and it's dry. Is bridge. There's plenty of bridges over the Euphrates River right now. There's very little waiting. I suspect it's going to be a ratcheting. We're going to look at our Israeli friends doing something in Iran. Iran's going to do something back. And then there's a certain mosque on an escarpment called the Temple Mount, Gold Dome Mosque. I think that baby's going to be probably pushed into the Kidron Valley quite soon, because we have to open up the rock that's underneath it for the Antichrist to set up his temple upon it. It's getting towards the end. There's not going to be any rapture, so you can forget all that. But my name is Eric Bond, and my email is eric@ericbond.us. I answer any and all biblical questions, and I love these little chats. I hope that you enjoy them. Please feel free to take a look at all of them, and you make it a great day, and we will talk again quite soon. Thanks.